want to say it was just an honor to be able to listen to you and to talk to all of us tonight. I work with kids on the autism spectrum.
You're going to have to come up closer because I just can't hear it.
I work with kids on the autism spectrum, and one of my students is becoming aware that he has differences, but he doesn't know of his diagnosis yet. So I was wondering what advice you would give to a child who is becoming aware of what his differences are and how he can feel comfortable in a world that's
well, it's like, Michelangelo was probably autistic. He was a grubby little 12-year-old that dropped out of school, running around in churches seeing great art as exposure, grew up with stone cutting tools, then mentoring. Einstein was probably autistic. Edison was probably autistic. Steve Jobs. These are people that had good careers. That's one of the things I tell them. The thing when I do my formal PowerPoint presentation, I'll show pictures of these people. And I'll say, what would happen to these great innovators in today's educational system? When Einstein, whatever he had, with delayed speech delay tree, he'd land in an autism program. Where would he go today? Would he be in the basement playing video games? Now, he actually had a job at the Swiss Patent Office for years, and they gave him all the real difficult engineering things. And think of all the stuff he got exposed to, all kinds of electrical patents. They gave him all that kind of stuff. They didn't give him like a kitchen thing, something for cooking. They gave him or farm equipment patents. That was, think of all the ideas he would have been exposed to. And he wore green corduroy slippers to the patent office with pink roses on them. Yeah, that's not exactly workwear. He liked comfortable.
I will just say I've had this experience a lot, and I've had parents ask me this a lot, and I think that it's not a one-size-fits-all answer, but I will say that there have been many individuals that once they understand who they are, it's a bit of a relief, because until they have a way of understanding it, they just feel that there's maybe something wrong with them or they're different. And there are a few really good books out there. There's one that I'm thinking of and I can't think of the name, but if you email me, I'll dig it up and find it. And I've used that a lot with children because it's kind of like a workbook that guides you through and kind of slowly introduces you rather than just saying, oh, maybe you have this. Because again, every individual is different, and what I always say is we're all different. We all have different strengths and weaknesses. But I think that to not demystify the difference can sometimes be, I've had kids that have actually been very resentful after the fact when they realize themselves and they realize that people have been withholding it from them. So again, it's a different age when children are ready, but if you're starting to see those signs, I would really speak to the parents, maybe pull on some resources on how to just help this child understand who they are, and that it's just a difference. It's not a
well, the
good or
problem
bad.
with autism is is a true continuous trait, both in the brain development and some of the genetic code. True continuous. One that's slightly nerdy become autism. There's no black and white dividing line. It's truly a continuous trait, and that's something that a lot of people have a hard time understanding. Where if you got tuberculosis, you either have it or you don't, and there's a medical test for that.
Yeah, a diagnosis is not a crutch.
It's not a what? A crutch.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think personally, whenever somebody sees like a diagnosis or something that needs to be worked on, it's like, oh my gosh, they're either really bad at this or they're never going to do it at all. Like, what am I going to do? And I've had a lot of experiences with that. Yeah, I mean, like I've had a mixture of experiences when I told people about my diagnosis. They were either they understood it fully, they were willing to learn, or they're just like, what the heck is that? Or so-and-so has autism, but they don't do that.
Well, one of the things, let's look at some of the accommodations. Some people can see flicker on LED lights. And if you want to figure out if the lights flicker, take some pictures on your phone, slow motion. Play it back in slow motion. I'd recommend doing some waving so you know it's slow motion. Another thing I cannot do is remember long strings of verbal sequence information. I need to write down a pilot's checklist. And then something that involves sequence where I get frazzled, I have a hard time dealing with that. Because if I was a computer, I got a tiny processor, then maybe Intel 286, but I got the cloud and tons of memory. But I'm accessing it through a phone that was maybe a 1-bar connection. That's kind of how I am. So like forcing me to do a lot of stuff really quickly is sometimes hard.